Hey, Eagle fans, it's EaglefanKarl, and I just want to do a quick check-in before tomorrow night's game against the Giants. I had been traveling quite a bit for work over the weekend. Didn't really get to do a reaction video to the Vikings game, so I want to give some thoughts about that and then give my prediction for the Giants game tomorrow night. And for the Vikings game, I was exhibiting at a conference for the weekend, and I was working in the exhibit booth, and I had it streaming on my iPad. So there was quite a bit of the game I was able to watch because of there were some downtimes where people were in sessions and such. So I probably ended up watching about 80% of the game, I would have to guess. There was some stuff I missed. For instance, I missed the 3rd and 1 pitch to Josh Adams. I didn't see that play. I didn't see live the strip sack return for the fumble, return fumble for the touchdown the Vikings got. So some of that stuff I missed. I did have an idea of who I thought some studs and duds were going to be. I asked my one cousin. He sort of confirmed some of the things I thought, so I'm going to go ahead and go with those initial thoughts that I had, initial reactions for my studs and duds for the week. We'll start, first of all, of course, with the studs. Whenever we have a loss, we start with the good first and then get to who's to blame in the duds. As far as the studs are concerned, my number 3, I'm going to go with 3 studs this week. My number 3 stud is going to be Zach Ertz. He's been playing well all year long, and he continued that in this game. He's got 41 receptions and over 400 yards catching. Now I know that sometimes these things even out over the course of the year, but right now after 5 games, he's on pace for over 130 receptions and nearly 1,400 yards in receiving, which is absolutely insane. Now I don't expect he's going to end up with those kind of numbers, but I absolutely, unless he gets hurt, expect him to go for 100 receptions, and I think he probably easily could get 1,000 yards as well. So I think he's certainly established himself as one of the premier tight ends in the league as far as a pass-catching tight end, and he continued to show that against the Vikings on Sunday. My number 2 stud of the week is going to be Carson Wentz. I think there was a couple hiccups. The strip sack really wasn't his fault. I know a lot of people are saying he's holding on to the ball too long. I didn't see that much. What I did see that I guess concerns me a little bit for his game, and it's really not his fault, his mobility seems to be fine in the sense that he's able to make the moves. I think he's lost a little bit of speed, and that might just be something he's got to get back, because there's been times where he's been able to be tracked down by linebackers and stuff like that, where before the injury that didn't happen. So it's entirely possible that he's just lost a little bit of a step, and that will slowly come back as he gets closer to what we knew he was before the injury. It's entirely possible. I guess it never comes back, but given his age, I'm going to assume that he's eventually going to get that speed back up to where it was at one point. Now, one thing I do want to point out about Carson, in this game, he had a touchdown pass. He had 2 of them, actually, but he had a touchdown pass, which now means he has gone 18 straight games with at least 1 touchdown pass in each of those games. That ties the franchise record that was previously set by Randall Cunningham, and that means that tomorrow night's game, if he throws a touchdown pass, he will set a new franchise record for 19 straight games with a touchdown pass. That's obviously games he's played in because of the injury. There's a break there. And interestingly enough, this whole streak started on a Thursday night game against the Giants. At the end of his rookie year, we played a December game on a Thursday night against the Giants at Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagles won that game, and he had, I think, 1 touchdown pass. I don't think he had 2. I think he had 1 touchdown pass in that game. Finished with another touchdown pass at the end of that rookie campaign in the last game of that season. Threw for touchdowns in every game last year, and now in his first 3 games, he has thrown for at least 1 touchdown pass in his first 3 games back. So like I said, tomorrow night, if he throws a touchdown pass, he'll set the new franchise record for consecutive games with a touchdown pass at 19. For my number 1 stud of the week, I'm going to actually hold off on that until a little bit later in the video, and you'll see why when I get there. So let's go ahead and turn to duds of the week. There's several duds that I could go with on this, and I've got 8 guys that I sort of want to single out. And number 8, I really sort of hate to put him on here because his season is over now, but Jay Ajayi's fumble just absolutely killed any chance we had to get back in this game. I know we made a run late again, and we had a chance, but that was really our opportunity to get back in that game. And to fumble that ball down at the 5-yard line, it seems like clear that you're going in. You're going to make this a game again in the second half, and to do that is just really unforgivable. Because of what happened and the fact that I do feel bad, I'm going to put him at the bottom of the duds list, but he certainly belongs on there. For my duds 3 through 7, though, I'm going to have to put the whole offensive line up there again because it just was brutal the way that they have been blocking this year. And, I really think when you look at it, I think a couple things. Number one, I think some of these guys clearly, like I had said this last week, I'll say it again until they start to really shape up. But I think they got fat off of their success from last year, and I just don't think the same drive is there. I keep thinking back to Kelsey's speech at the parade celebration where he's talking about hungry dogs run faster. Well, it seems like these dogs are stuffed and full, and there's no way that they're running faster right now because these guys look slow off the ball, and they're just not. I think that also is affecting the running game. It's not just the pass blocking that's been a problem. I think it's affected the running game. So all in all, I really think that the offensive line really needs to shape up its game. I'm concerned Jason Peters is just, at his age, is just done. And at this point, he's just washed up. And part of me ultimately just wishes they just get Vaitai in there because I don't think he could be any worse than what Peters is doing. I think the whole thing with benching Wisniewski for Isaac Seumalo, I think that was a desperation move. Wisniewski, of the 5 guys that had been playing, was probably the one that wasn't really terrible, and I would say him and Brooks were probably the 2 guys that have been playing halfway decent. So I don't really think it was his fault. I think the tackles and Kelsey have been the real culprits, and those are guys that you expect to be the strong parts of this line. So I really think that putting Seumalo in there was a desperation move. It'll be interesting to see what they do going forward with that. But I really think Wisniewski, if it were me, I'd put Wisniewski back in there. And if anything, if I was going to be making a change, it would be a hard one to do given who he is and the fact that he's probably a future Hall of Famer, is benching Peters, because I think that either he's not completely healthy or he's just lost a step and he's over the hill and they just need to get a younger body in there. For my number 1 and number 2 duds, though, I'm going to go with the 2 coaches. Number 2, I'll go with Jim Schwartz. And number 1, I'm going to go with Doug Peterson. And I think a lot of this game has to go on the coaching staff. For instance, what I was just talking about with the change on the offensive line, I think that made no sense. I think you've got a guy like Kirk Cousins who does not do well under pressure, and why Jim Schwartz continues to be reluctant to blitz just baffles me. I think that, our defensive line hasn't been playing the best either, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they haven't been able to get quite the rotation that they have in the past. I think the book is out on this defense now, that if you run up tempo, that sort of avoids us being able to substitute the guys on the defensive line. And I think all those things put together have really made it so that Schwartz needs to figure out a way to make some adjustments to what teams are doing now against him, and he's just shown that he's not going to do it. The same goes for the whole thing with Jalen Mills. And Jalen Mills has been a liability. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the quarterbacks haven't been under pressure. And that makes a guy then like Jalen Mills, who just doesn't quite have the talent and the speed, it's going to expose him even more. And I think that's what's happened this year. I don't think he's any different of a player than what he was last year. I think the only difference is quarterbacks are having more time now to be able to expose him. And they know now that he can be exposed with that double move. So that's sort of the concerns that, I've got with this defense. The offense, clearly not running the ball enough. I didn't see the 3rd and 1 pitch play, but from what I understand, it was a terrible play decision. There's just too many stupid penalties we're getting in terms of, like some of the illegal formations and all that kind of stuff. It's just ridiculous. And when it comes to Doug Peterson, also, the other one that I'm just really got to scratch my head over is this idea of the challenge when it was clear he had the ball and 3 feet in. So I don't know what you're challenging. It goes back to sort of, dumb Doug that we had in the first year where he made some challenges that you just sort of scratched your head and said, why? I mean, I know it was a big play, but it wasn't that big of a play that you weren't going to be able to rebound from it. And we were losing, so you wanted to have those timeouts. If that's a big play in the first half, then maybe losing the timeout doesn't quite affect you as much. But in the second half, when you're behind, you need to make sure you've got all your timeouts, and you're only challenging if you absolutely know you're going to win. If a guy buzzed him from upstairs and said that they thought that he should challenge it, then that guy really needs to have those responsibilities taken away, because he's not giving Doug good advice. But whatever it was terrible, and it was a ridiculous challenge. The whole thing of going for two, I read some stuff on it as to why you do that and why you don't. I didn't particularly like it. Ultimately, obviously, it doesn't really affect the outcome of the game, so it really didn't matter that much, and they got the 2 points. And if they had held the Vikings and got the touchdown then and had the 1 point, to take the lead, we'd all be saying how great he is and how aggressive he is. So I'm really not going to kill him on that. I'm also not going to kill. I know a lot of people are killing him on not trying to kick the field goal. I thought it was too far, and our defense had finally gotten some stops against the Vikings. I like the idea of pinning them deep and hoping the defense was going to be able to stop them. The defense just didn't respond there, and once again, that goes back to Schwartz. So you put all those things together, and I think really this coaching staff is the teams or the guys that really need to bear the brunt of the fault for losing this game. But let's go ahead and get back to my studs of the week. I said I'd get the number one stud a little bit later, and this, I'll admit, this was my cousin's suggestion, and I thought it was brilliant based on what had happened, especially then with what happens Monday night. And that is the stud of the week is going to be the rest of the NFC East for all getting L's. So ultimately, this loss didn't really hurt us. And if you look at it this way, we're a half game back in a division that everybody really looks weak. If we can get on any kind of a roll, there's no reason why we can't win this division. So the fact that they're still, screwing things up, I think really just goes to show that, hey, listen, we're really in this thing, and we'll be able to still win this division if we can just figure out how we can, get our act together, get Carson some time so he can make some throws, because when he's had time to make throws, he's putting up good numbers. So I really think he really hasn't lost anything in that part of his game. The offensive line just needs to do a better job blocking, and Doug Peterson needs to do a better job in terms of play calling and getting the running game going. Clement's going to be back for this game against the Giants, so hopefully that will improve things. So I really think that we need to try and get the running game going. I know Sproles isn't going to be back yet, but between Clement and Smallwood, you've got guys there that should be able to run the ball and be able to keep the Giants honest on defense. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to try to establish the running game and get closer to a 50-50 split. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely a 50-50 split, but there's no reason why it shouldn't be close to that. Now, of course, for us to win the division, though, it means we're going to have to start winning division games, which, of course, brings us to tomorrow night's game against the Giants. And really, if we want to win the division, we're probably going to have to go 6-0 or 5-1 at this point, because if we're going to get to 10 wins, we'll probably have to get to 9 or 10 wins to win the division. That means we're going to have to go 8-3 or at least 7-4 the rest of the way. And we've got some tough out-of-division games coming up. You've got the Panthers, you've got the Jaguars, you've got the Saints, you've got the Rams. All of those are tough games coming up. And yeah, you might be able to win 1 or 2 of them, but really to be able to win this division, we're going to have to win the games in the division. So we're going to have to probably go 6-0 or at least 5-1 in the division games. So for that reason, this game is almost a must-win game. I did say for the Vikings game, and I had said this even from the beginning, when I first looked at the schedule, that I thought the Eagles would split these 2 games. I didn't think we'd beat the Vikings and the Giants on the short week. So I thought we'd win one and lose the other. I just thought it was going to be the other way around. I thought we'd beat the Vikings and then lose to the Giants on the short week. But because of the way we lost and, the fact that we lost, I think that this team is going to recognize that it really needs to start playing up at the top of its A game to really be able to start to put some wins together and really put some division wins together. And you couple that with the fact that Giants are coming off a demoralizing loss, going back to like what we did to them last year with the last second long field goal. So the fact that they lost that game that way, I think will potentially lead to them sort of having an off game, because that's going to be really hard to get right back up for a game on a short week. That's if anything, the short week, usually it favors the home team, but in this situation, I think when you have that kind of a loss, it's really going to sort of be a problem for them coming off of that and the way they lost that game. But the short week does bother me because we are the road team, although it's not that far of a road trip. And the other thing that bothers me is all their playmakers. And if we're not getting pressure on Eli, those guys are going to carve us up. Eli still has enough talent that he can get the ball to his playmakers. They've got Saquon Barkley now, who's a good running back out of the backfield who can make plays in passing game. They've got, we all know they've got Beckham, and they've got some other guys with Shepard and Ingram and all those guys that they can certainly make plays. So I think that the real key to this is going to be getting pressure on Eli, because he's shown when he gets pressure on him that he can make some bad decisions and bad plays. So for that reason, I think we will be able to do that. But I think Schwartz is really going to have to modify his game if his 4 down linemen aren't getting adequate pressure. With that offensive line, though, by the way, they should be able to. But still, if we're not getting pressure with our 4 down linemen, he's going to have to start sending some extra guys because we've got to get pressure on Eli. If we get pressure on Eli, I think we win the turnover battle, and we'll be able to win this game. I also think our O-line is going to play better as well. The one stat that when I was looking really sort of gave me some encouragement is the Giants are tied for dead last in the league in sacks. They and the Raiders both only have 6 sacks on the season, so they have not been getting pressure on the quarterback either. So I think for those reasons, it's going to be, our offensive line will hopefully be able to give Carson some protection so we're able to make some throws down the field. One other thing to think about, though, as it relates to their playmakers, with all the playmakers they've got, they're only averaging 20 points a game, so there's no reason why our defense shouldn't be able to hold them to somewhere around 20 or even maybe the high teens. And for that reason, I think like I said, I think we're going to win this game. My prediction for a score is going to be Eagles 24, Giants 16. I don't think it's going to be a real pretty win. I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to come right down to the end. And ultimately, I think the Eagles will do enough to win this game and get back in the win column. I really don't. This team, I think, is too good to lose 3 games in a row, especially when the 3rd game is against a team that's bad like the Giants are. There's no reason why they shouldn't be able to win this game. Like I said, because of the short week and the fact that they do have some decent playmakers, I could see them making some plays. I think the defense, will be able to make stops in the red zone, which is why I have them at 16. But all in all, I think the Eagles will do enough to win this game. So that's my prediction. Let me know what you think. What's your prediction for the game? What are your thoughts on the Vikings game with your studs and duds? Is there anybody I missed that you don't think I put in there? Let me know in the comments below. And obviously, I'll check in and let you know what I thought after the game. Until then, fly Eagles fly.